are doing well. I've been chatting with Louise in the chats, and we hadn't come up with an insect yet, so I thought we might do Calosoma scrutator. This is a species of ground beetle that's found here in the United States. It's a fairly common native species of beetle in some states. You can find it across the country, but it's more common in certain areas. It's also known as, its common name would be the fiery searcher. Alright, so that's our common name for this beetle, and it has this really gorgeous name because it also has this beautiful iridescence on its exoskeleton that's never going to go away. This is a structural color, right? So we know that structural colors mean that the exoskeleton has some type of prism-like shape that allows certain colors out. And so when you're looking at this beetle from different angles, it's going to have different colors. Hi, Doggo. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well also. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and scooch. We're just going to look at these elytra for a minute. These are the wing shells of our fiery searcher, and there's something really cool about them. They have these... In beetles, there's two major words that we'll use to talk about this type of texturing. So we call these punctations because instead of them being straight lines, you can see it almost looks like somebody took a needle and did a bunch of individual puncture wounds. So we'll call these punctations and not... what's the other word for them? Striations. So, striation is going to be one straight line that's all even, and then punctations is when you see like this. These are punctations where they're individual spots. Welcome. All right, so Calosoma scrutator. I do actually have another species of Calosoma, but they're actually alive right now. I've got a colony of Calosoma sycophanta at the moment. But when some of them pass naturally, they'll be in my collection, and I'm sure I'll be able to show them to you also. I think these beetles are absolutely gorgeous, and because they're so big, we can see a variety of their like the really cool characters. The tarsal segments, for instance, that you can see on the ends of the legs, they're all individual, and you can see them very well because this is a fairly large beetle. And these right here coming off of the mouth parts, those are palps. So those are actually, well, my common name, as you know, if you've been hanging out with me long enough. I love to call those mouth fingers because they are up near the mouth and they're jointed and they help kind of push food into their mouth. All right, I have a question. Do you know if Cnidaris lividus is rare? The dark brown click beetle. Lividius. I wouldn't know. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and look it up really quick. Alright, so I believe that there are many species of click beetles that have this very almost common dark brown look like this. So I would say that they are not rare. They're probably pretty common, but they are generally nocturnal for their flight patterns. So if you if you're talking about the flight patterns and stuff of the click beetle that you found, they're going to be more commonly found at nighttime. You can bring a lot of them, actually. If you go blacklighting and you have a white sheet with a black light, you can bring in a number of click beetles. I know that personally, I haven't identified my click beetles past family yet, but I did just grab the key for them. So, that's going to be something that I'm playing around with a little bit. Now, I wanted to show you guys something because I don't believe we've actually, in any of our previous live streams, we haven't really distinguished between the labial and the maxillary palps. We've just been calling them kind of palps or labial palps. So, this is a Beetles of North America book. It's by Art Evans. He's a great beetle guy. Now, I was wondering if it would show, but it's not going to show. Not going to be big enough. So, when we are sketching our palps, I just wanted to share with you that the maxillary palps are going to be these larger ones on the outside. So this is actually connected to the maxillary. And then this one, the smaller one that's inside, this is the labial palp connected to the bottom jaw. All right. So these are both palps, but they are connected to different pieces of the mouth, and so they actually have different names. You couldn't find any info on click beetles. I'm gonna go ahead and don't mind my green screen. I have hidden books behind my background, along with some printouts of keys that I have found. And I wanted to make sure, because I can show you this, and it'll get you, here we go. So this is a key that was written in 2003 by Paul Johnson, and it's called the Key to the Nearctic Genera of Elaterity. I'm going to go ahead and write that in the chat for you. And I believe that you can find this, if you Google it, you should be able to find this key for free, because I believe I just printed it off of the internet. And it's 2003, so the taxonomy is fairly new. There was just a brand new beetle paper that came out that reclassified a bunch of reclassified some families and reclassified some of the super the super families. That one came out in 2022 this year. Alrighty, yay! Let's sketch. I was out and about playing with bugs a couple hours ago. That's why I look a little red. I got a little bit of sun. You're welcome. I should be going through and identifying a lot of my beetles shortly. I just went through and organized my beetle drawer. I'm pretty excited. That's why I pulled this Calosoma scrutator out. Alright, so Calosoma scrutator. Alright, and for Calosoma scrutator, the common name is going to be Fiery Searcher. So if you want, you can also label that on your paper. These are specialist feeders. Calosoma scrutator is a specialist feeder on caterpillars. Alright, so the other species that I have is actually a ground beetle that specifically feeds, was brought over to feed on gypsy moth caterpillars, except, I don't know how well they did. I don't know if they, ended up making a difference in the gypsy moth populations. Alright, so I think the individual segments on this body are pretty easy to look at. So we're going to start up here at our head. Alright, we've got some compound eyes. We have what we would consider filiform antennae. These are long, straight antennae. These right here you can see up off of the front. Those are going to be our mandibles. Hey Chaos, welcome. We've got a couple people hanging out with us today. We are looking at the Fiery Searcher. Alright. I'm going ahead and I'm going to get my sketch started. I'm just going to try and get the overall shape. And when I do my overall shape for my head, a lot of times I just do the outside, kind of the overall outside shape, and then I will come back and add the eyes. So my head is going to be this very kind of longer, I still think it's kind of like a stretched out D, right? Because you have a flat at one end and then it's kind of long and round on the other end. We're going to come back and add the features, but a lot of times what I like to do is give myself some kind of very basic shapes to work off of, and then that makes the whole process go a little bit faster and a little easier. Now, that's going to be kind of our shape for our head. I can almost imagine where the eyes might go and where the antennae are going to come back, but I'm not going to worry about those until I get the rest of my body kind of sketched out a little bit. Now, my next segment back, this is going to be my pronotum. So sometimes this can be a shield that extends over the head as a protection for the head. In this species, our pronotum is right here. It's this squat segment right here. It's the first segment of the thorax, and it has the first pair of legs connected to it. Welcome, Jeff. I should do a video showing my whole insect collection. Yes, my collection is something like 6 drawers. I don't know. Would you want to see like just the overall of my collection, or would you want to kind of look at individual species, like individual specimens? My collection right now is, I think, at somewhere in the 450 specimens range. I keep an Excel document that keeps track of my specimens and how far down they're identified. Look at the overall. Yeah, so I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm trying to finish up some of my unit tray labeling so that it'll make sense to more people. Right now it makes sense to me. But yeah, I think so too. I think that would be cool. So I will definitely go ahead and do that. All right. I did go through a lot of my collection, so if you go into my live streams, when I started live streaming before I was sketching, I had been going through and like identifying my collection to family. So I went through and I showed all of my beetles and how to identify them to family. And then I showed all of my wasps and how to identify them to family. So those recordings are still out there, but I definitely could do another one. All right, so I've got that overall kind of wide round pronotal shape. We're going to be moving down. We're going to be moving to the elytra. So we're going to be moving down to that first pair of wings, the elytra. Although I do like to give myself some stick legs. So here's some stick legs coming off my pronotum. This is going to give me, essentially, it'll help me know where all of the segments are moving. And I have a student who absolutely loves when I give my characters these stick legs because she thinks that every time it does, it makes it look like the insect is shrugging for a minute before all of this stuff is in. So it makes me smile. Yeah, I can definitely sketch a Japanese beetle. And I think that, you know, it's funny, I might have to go outside and collect one. They're so common, I don't know if I've actually collected a Japanese beetle, but they are out and about in Philly right now, so I can go ahead and do that. It looks like this is as far zoomed out as I can make it, so I can't get the entire body underneath the microscope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this image here, and then I'm going to pull our specimen over, just so that you can see the overall body shape and kind of our overall view of our beetle here. Alright, so when our elytra come out, they have a little bit of a shoulder, but not too much. The elytra do get wider than the pronotum at some point, and then they come down to a point at the very end. So when we're connecting this here, keep in mind to follow that center line, especially for our elytra. I don't think this guy has a visible scutellum. I'm going to have to look at that closer. Alright, so I'm going to pull right about here. So our, I think what I'm going to do is push this. For sure, doggo. I think that you're right. I think that I should do some more common insects too, so that people can, when they see them naturally can like think of doing this stuff, you know, and say, oh, hey, I remember when I saw that close up. I think that's a good idea. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, and you see how the elytra kind of connect and then kind of swing out wide. So we're gonna mimic that a little bit. We're gonna swing wide, give it some shoulders, and then even after the shoulders, the elytra do continue to expand just a little bit before they come down. And when they meet in the center, they do make a little bit of a point. So I'm just trying to give myself a light line to kind of work off of and see how I like. This point should be in the center. All right, I'll pull our buddy over. Give us an idea. And this is just our overall sketch. We're going to be going back and zooming in and making sure all these lines are right. But it also gives me an idea and makes sure that I know that my specimen is not going to be going off of the paper. Although, if I do sketch the legs the way that this guy is holding his legs, then I am going to go over the paper. So we're gonna finagle that a little bit to we're gonna move the legs a little bit to make sure that they fit on my paper. But I think that is pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get myself some stick legs for my second and third pairs. My second pair is likely going to come out right about here. And when I'm doing my legs, a lot of times I'm going to think of like 3 sections, because you've got the femur, the tibia, and then the tarsal segments. So, to get these legs right, they might look kind of funny if I try and keep them on the paper. They're gonna go off the paper. It's gonna happen. That's fine. We'll start from the top and see where we get to. I mean, the structuring and the coloring on the exoskeleton and on the head is really where it's at with this species anyway. Maxillary palps, labial palps. All right. It's so pretty. Okay. So when I'm looking at my overall shape, a lot of times the first thing I add are eyes. It gives me an idea of where everything else is going to be placed on the head. So our eyes are going to kind of bulge out around the head. So I'm going to go ahead and give. They are less D-shaped. They are less D-shaped than a lot of eyes. You can see that they're kind of rounded even on the front rather than having a flat. So go ahead and make sure that that is kind of rounded in there, and then push that eye out kind of past just where you had imagined the head to go. Because that'll make your eyes stand out. Is the beetle that I am sketching common or rare? It depends on where in the country you are. So, Calosoma scrutator, for instance, can be found in Michigan. But I looked for it for years and never found it. And then, I was traveling a little bit, and further south, they're more common. So you can find them just like running around in gas station parking lots at night in some states. So this one is kind of a mixture. It's not super common, but it has places where it is. I don't know if that makes sense. So it just depends on where you're looking for it. But it can be found across the country. Let me go check on its distribution. A lot of times I'm going to use a mixture of Bug Guide and iNaturalist to determine distributions, because a lot of times with these types of insects, they get photographed so regularly that it's likely that they're in these databases, right? So, Calosoma scrutator, this fiery searcher can be found in most of the states in the eastern United States. So if you're east of the Mississippi, you should be able to find it. And then if you are what looks like Nebraska, let's see. So it can go as far west as Nevada and then all the way through southern Texas. Really the only place that's not found is in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. In Pennsylvania, is it rare or common? I guess I would lean towards rare, I guess, in Pennsylvania. They were pretty common in the New Jersey pines. I was walking, I took a hike over in the Pine Barrens, and they were running all over the trails. So, very common in New Jersey, not so common in Pennsylvania, unless you find the right habitats, and I just haven't done that yet. Alright, so we've got these eyes that are coming out, those big compound eyes. I'm going ahead and kind of solidifying some of these shapes on the head. Alright, and then right above the head, we've got the connections to the antenna. I already did mention that the antenna, we're going to call these filiform. This is the antenna type that means straight antenna, or filiform antenna. And then you have some names to the antennal segments. So you have the Scape, the Pedicel, and the Flagellum. Yes. Alright, so you have the Scape, and then something that we call the Pedicel, and then the Flagellum. And so these are going to be our segments of our antenna. If we're looking at them, this first one right here, that's the Scape. This second one right here, this is the Pedicel. And then the rest of these segments are all considered the Flagellum. Why did it delete your messages? I'm not sure. Let me, I don't know why it deleted your message. A lot of times I'm able to, like, read the message and see why, but I don't even see you. You're welcome. Alright, so what did your message say? Alright, so I've got my Scape, that's going to be my first segment. my pedicel, which is the second segment right here. And then the rest of the segments are going to be part of the flagellum. A lot of times I won't do the rest of the flagellum until I get my leg segments taken care of, because they're going to be on top of the legs, and having too many lines all over the place can confuse things. So I'm going to go ahead and just sketch kind of these first two segments, the scape and then the pedicel, which is going to give me kind of the direction in which the antennae are going to lay. And then I will come back and add the flagellum pretty much at the very end is what I like to do. All right, so we've got those antennae taken care of. Now, moving forward, we do have, I'm going to change the focus just a little bit, maybe zoom in about a little bit more, because I want to be able to see some of these, segments in the head. I did want to show you, where'd my book go? There it is. I did want to show you, I was going to look up one more word for you. Yeah. All right, so we know that the labrum is the upper lip of our beetle's mouth parts. So there's actually another, oh my goodness. I start talking and then I lose my train of thought. There's actually another segment that's kind of part of the head. We call this the clypeus, and it's kind of between the head and the mouth parts. It's right here. So you see how there's this suture or this line right here on the head, and then moving forward, it almost looks like this little rectangle. That right in there, that's going to be what we consider the clypeus. And then right after that, if I was to zoom in even further, I would probably see another itty-bitty segment, which would be the upper lip. That would be the labrum. So when I'm going ahead and sketching on mine, I just had this kind of wide D shape, but what I really want is I want to erase in here. And I want to add all of those mandibles and those special mouth parts. So I'm going to come in and kind of just create a flat, even across. And then this is going to be, this next little square, this segment here, that is going to be our clypeus. All right. And then after our clypeus, we are going to have the labrum, but in this one, it's not super visible, so we're going to go directly to the mandibles, which are these guys right here. The left one is going over top of the right one, and I believe that there are some dentations. The message said, do you save the drawings you make? Yes! I do save all of my sketches. I have them in a book in order, and I do sketch more than just here in live streams. I also sketch with children twice a week. So I am gaining a pretty large collection of illustrations now. Some of them I feel are pretty finalized, and others I would probably want to go in and change a couple of features if I was going to do something with them. I wanted to see if there were any dentations or any kind of, we call them dentations, like sharp points on the mandibles, right? But these mandibles look fairly smooth. You see that we don't have very many of those. Actually, we can see the labrum a little bit. Right there, that's where it is. The labrum has hairs on it. So if you're looking right about here, it comes up, it kind of has a left and a right side, and it comes out like that, and it has some of these little reddish orange hairs coming off. That's going to be the upper lip of our beetle. We call it the labrum, spelled this way. And so coming off of this guy, you can have kind of a two-humped labrum. And then you've got these mandibles that are coming up off the top that don't have very many dentations, but are large enough to kind of overlap one another. All right, and then we've got maxillary and labial palps. I want to make sure I'm kind of focusing on the left-hand side. If we look right about here, this is what we consider the maxillary palps. And then this small one in here, that's the labial palp. It looks like they've got a 3-segmented maxillary palp and a 2-segmented labial palp. Maxillary is spelled like that if you are curious to label your specimen. I'm going to go ahead and sketch mine here. So we get 3 segments on the maxillary palp, so they are actually pretty long. And then we're going to have 2 segmented labial palps, spelled this way. And the labial palps are actually connected to the bottom lip. They're connected to not the labrum on the top, but the labium on the bottom. So I went in and I just gave myself 2 more little segments. They're not going to be super easy to see from this distance, but I'll go back after our sketch time, and sometimes I will add, I'll go in and go it over with pen. And I really like how some of these sketches turn out when I finalize them with pen. All right, so I'm pretty happy with all of that happening on the head. It's a very, very busy head, but you've got all of those different characteristics, and they're all helping this beetle survive, right? They're all adaptations that are useful for my specimen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit on the pronotum just to make sure we've got all of these characteristics right. And I can see an itty bitty scutellum maybe. Does it not have? It's so small. It's so small I'm not sure that it exists. So generally, in between the elytra, right about here, you have a triangular segment. And in a lot of beetles, it's actually pretty obvious. It'll be fairly large, like this large, right? But I think that the scutellum is almost non-existent. If it exists at all, I would say that it is this itty bitty triangle right here. I wonder if other ground beetles have that character too. You know, people say that you can find this beetle, the fiery searcher, in Michigan, and I've only ever seen one in Michigan. It was smashed in a Denny's parking lot, and it was so sad because I had been looking and looking and looking for years for this beetle in Michigan, and I had never found it. And then I was, you know, midnight or something, going to a late night Denny's, and there's a smushed fiery searcher in the parking lot. Like a car ran over it. So it was not worth the specimen even to peel off the road. All right, I went ahead and I finalized my shape on my pronotum, just making sure that I was noticing in this view that the bottom side of the pronotum has a little bit of a point. It's not smooth all the way across. So I went in and made sure to expand it down just a little bit. And I think that that's happy enough to move on. Doggo, I'm wondering, you had asked me if I save the drawings I make, and I do. Is there a reason you were asking? I guess my question is, do you have an interest in my sketches? I've been trying to figure out like what I can do with them because I have so many of them now. I've been considering going through and adding color to them so that I could in theory sell them as prints. I think that some of them would make really good stickers, honestly. But I was just wondering if there was a reason why you had asked. I'm going through and I'm going to add the outside line to my elytra. I think that I've got enough of a good feeling about this beetle and sitting next to it that I'm ready to go ahead and finish up these lines. I do want to go ahead and scoot my microscope image down so we can see the very end of the elytra. Looks like I'm going to have to angle my specimen one more time. It's just gorgeous. I just love them so much. Alright, so it does look like we're coming down to a point, but we're probably not coming down to as sharp of a point as I had created. More something like this. I actually am excited. Coming up this July, I have 2 different blacklighting events that I'm doing in the Philadelphia region. I'm going blacklighting, and you have the ability to buy tickets now, I believe, for... I'm going at Pennypack on the Delaware, so that's going to be fun. And I am doing a blacklighting event at the Silver Lake Nature Center. So both of them are, let's see, Silver Lake is on July 22nd, I believe, and then Pennypack on the Delaware is July 23rd. So that is going to be a great time. It's going to be a great weekend. Alright, so I've got that overall shape of my elytra. I'm gonna cheat and use a ruler to make sure that my elytra line is straight. There have been times when I did this by hand, but that's just so much better. Alright, and then if you did want to go through, keep in mind that the lines on our back are not striations. They're not just straight lines. They're individual punctations. They're little dots. So if you were going to go along and do these striations, you would go through and you would want to do individual dots in lines all the way down the elytra. Now, I don't believe that you, ladies and gentlemen, want to watch me do that. So we're going to move past that, but you can go ahead and do that with your time if you'd like. All right. Let's do legs. Alrighty. Oh, my light got dark. I wonder if that will brighten it up. Nope. That's fine. Alright, so we are looking at a variety of characteristics right now. This is our femur, this is our tibia, and then these are our tarsi. And those are going to be the segments of our leg. So it goes femur, tibia, tarsi. And tarsi is the plural of the word tarsus. So you can see that each one of these individuals, these are individual tarsus. And then together, my beetle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tarsal segments, or it has 5 tarsi on the front leg. And that's how we would count, and that's how we would kind of use that word in a sentence. But that first leg does come off of our pronotum, so you can go ahead and pull that femur back. It's kind of wide and it gets narrow, but you want to make sure that it has enough of a little bit of an angle at the top of it so that you're going to be able to connect your tibia easily. Our tibia is going to be coming in this direction, and it looks like I'm just going to be a little bit off of my stick figure leg. That's fine. It comes up and gets a little bit wider at the end, and then comes back. So something like this for our tibia shape. I do believe, yes. Our tibia has two tibial spurs. They're both on the inside. So when we are looking at it from this angle, it's this little spike right there. And you can see there's almost a little spike over there. Those are actually fairly long tibial spurs. Those are long tibial spurs. Just from this angle, they look short. All right, so you can go ahead, because we are sketching at this angle, right? You can go ahead and give it those almost like two little tibial spurs on either side, and then 5 tarsal segments. I imagine that somebody has taken like the conical ice cream cones and strung them together and then opened them up a little bit. That's how I imagine kind of sketching these tarsal segments, because you can see they're kind of like triangles that fit into one another. So you go ahead and go 1, 2, and they do get small. I think that mine started a little bit too big, but we'll 3, 4. And then the last one is kind of long. And then on the very, very end, what you're looking at are 2 tarsal claws. That's actually probably right. I was thinking that it was getting a little too big, but I think that the length is actually pretty okay for, if I was to move that leg closer to the head, I think that they're pretty even. So I'm just going to go ahead and narrow these a little bit so that they don't look as big. Just a little bit. We'll see what happens. All right, so that is our front leg. Let's go check out the tarsal segments and the segmentation on our middle leg. So on the middle leg, we can see the tibial spurs a little bit better. If you're looking along the inside, you can see this tibial spur right here, and then this little itty bitty one right there. It's the same length, it's just at a different angle. So we've got femur, tibia, tibial spines, or we can call them tibial spurs. And then, if we were going to count the tarsal segments, 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe this is going to be the last one, 5. Yes. So our beetle has 5 tarsal segments on the front leg, 5 tarsal segments on the middle leg, and we'll go and look and see what it has on the hind leg after we get this sketch done. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe scoot it up a little bit, so as I want to see where this leg emerges as I thought. So I had started my middle leg a little low when I was doing these, and I think that's what was giving me a hard time with my hind leg. So my middle leg is going to be coming out from right around here. And instead of it coming really far up, we're just going to make it go out wide at the base and narrower at the top. Alright, so we've got a femur, and then my tibia is going to come down. And it does have a little bit of an arch that makes it get kind of wider at the base, just like how this one got wider at the base. So we're looking at kind of that same shape, but it's just at a different angle. All right, and then the internal tibial spines, which are going to be something like one here, and then another one that's kind of in the distance back there. And then we're going to have our 5 tarsal segments. And these tarsal segments are actually a little bit longer than the ones in the front. Oops. Didn't let it focus before I froze it. There we go. Alright, so it's kind of even longer than this. Wow. Nice long tarsal segments. These longer tarsal segments and very, very long legs, I imagine, and these beetles are very fast. So I would call these cursorial legs. We have frequently had ambulatory legs, which are kind of like walking legs. They have very similar shapes, but it's kind of how they use their legs also. These beetles are very, very fast. Cursorial means running, so these are running legs. They have these very long, thin tarsal segments that are going to help with that, and also, let's see. If they have to run through sand, they don't have a lot of friction, because you can see their tarsal segments are so long and their legs are long and thin, so they can actually kind of push themselves up off of the sand and kind of run really fast. 1, 2, 3, the little 4, and then the long 5th segment with 2 tarsal claws at the end. Alright, so we've got a front leg, we've got a middle leg. Now the hind leg is going to be a little tricky because we are actively running out of space on my paper. I do this semi-regularly where I start my bug too big and then it ends up going off the page. But alas, what can you do? So let's go ahead and look at, so now when I'm looking at this leg looks like it's coming out of the elytra way back here. But from what I know about beetle morphology, the front leg is connected right about here. So you can see that there's that line. The middle leg is connected right about here. So you can see there's this line. Now my hind leg is going to be connected something like maybe a little further down. My hind leg is going to be connected something in here, right? So you do have a fairly even like that, but we could flip it over and see. You see the leg comes out way down here, and that's just because my beetle has its leg very, very widely stretched. But what I can do is I can bring my femur up a little bit and pull everything up. So I'm going to be erasing some of this middle leg. The hind leg is going to be on top. Yes. That's my imagining a bug running look, so that I can make sure that I know where it's going. Okay. I'm going to erase these circles. I'm going to sketch this leg in. So I'm going to say this is my femur here. It's going to cover these two tibial spines, so I'm going to erase them. That's fine. And then my tibia is going to come down and expand a lot like my tibia sections for my other legs. Let's see. Two tibial spines, and then 5 tarsal segments. And these tarsal segments, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep them on the page. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just sketch them as far as I can, and then we'll see how far we get. We probably are only going to have enough space to make 2 of these segments because these segments are very long. Look how long those are. fit 3. All right, that's fine. And so we're going to go ahead and count anyway, because why not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we were going to go ahead and give our beetle what we call a tarsal formula, it has a 5-5-5 tarsal formula, meaning that it has 5 tarsi on the first leg, 5 tarsi on the middle leg, and 5 tarsi on the hind leg. All right. There are some keys that will ask you for the tarsal formula, so you kind of have to know what you're looking at and how to count those tarsi to be able to identify a good number of beetles down to family. That's not even considering species characteristics. All right, now my final thing, what I always like to do at the end, I go back in and I sketch this antenna. You'll notice that my beetle doesn't have any of its left side legs. Sometimes I just skip those because I know that you probably have enough time to sketch them while I'm talking, but I don't have enough time to sketch them while I'm talking. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn my sketch off one more time so we can move our specimen over and we can check out these longer antennae. It gives me, and I would like to know, what do I want to know? I want to know the overall general length of the antenna in comparison to the rest of the body. So when I'm looking at my antennal segments, I'm saying, okay, my antennal segments, and a lot of times what I'll do is I will go ahead and I'll sketch something, a very soft light line that says, all right, this is how long I want it to go. And I think that's about right. It comes maybe just a little bit further, like that. Yeah, that's about right. And then I'm going to go ahead and count these flagellum segments. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe 8. It could be 9. Let me look on the microscope real quick. Yeah, I do believe that's 9, so that little one at the end is kind of curved down. So we're going to draw 9 segments right about here. These are going to be along this light line that we've sketched, and you'll notice that these are just kind of long boxy segments. So we can just go ahead and create these kind of long boxed segments. You do want to make sure that you do them individually because that's going to give you the differentiation between segments and also the ability to turn your antenna or change your antenna just at the connections, right? The segments themselves don't bend. The only place that bends on an insect's antenna is where there is a segment in between two. Is where there's a between two segments they will bend. There's a word for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so at the end they got a little bit smaller, but that's fine. So I've got my antennal segment. I'm going to go in and erase this little white line that doesn't matter as much and go ahead and make sure that my antennae are going over the leg and not through the leg. Awesome. So we've got that right half of it done. I'm probably going to go back through this sketch and put ink on it and then color it. I've been trying to practice coloring with colored pencils. We will see how that goes. I've been having a good time with it with my students, but I am not ready to do that on a live stream just about yet. I do want to say thank you to all of you who hung out with me for this hour. I know that some days we don't have as huge of a following and as many viewers, but every single viewer counts. I super appreciate Doggo and Chaos and Louise showing up for the first half of class and interacting and asking questions and checking out this beautiful beetle. I do plan on doing an overall View My Insect Collection live stream I'll go ahead and post that at some point. Make sure that you're following my Facebook or my Instagram account, because those are going to tell you what's going on as part of Insectopia, where I'm at, what I'm doing, and all the places that you can find me. And there it is. We are closing down our live stream. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's been hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful, happy holiday weekend, right? Here in the United States, it's 4th of July weekend, which is our Independence Day. Right here is OutSchool. That is a reminder that you can go ahead and check the description box below, and there is a link that takes you to all of my classes for students, ages 5 to 8 and 9 to 12s. I do junior bug clubs, weekly insect studies, where we view insects under a microscope. We talk about their behavior and their life cycles, and we have a great time. Please, please, please make sure to subscribe to my channel as you are out there viewing stuff, and if you want notifications, go ahead and hit the little bell. That right there is where you can go ahead and donate to Insectopia. You can go and support me and doing what I love, right? So that is where you can go ahead and let me know that you appreciate me for doing this, and that really, really does help me to continue to do this work that I love. You can find me at Insectopia 2015 on Facebook and Instagram. That's my tag. Somebody had already taken Insectopia. Silly people. So Insectopia 2015 is how you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. And on Instagram, I post all types of things, whether it's Guess That Bug from a Microscope or my blacklighting adventures. I've been recently getting into stories, so I've been posting a lot more stories and pictures of insects just as I'm viewing them out in the field. So I hope that you join me on this buggy adventure. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and come back next week to sketch whatever we're drawing next week. All right, have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay buggy.